John here. Before we get into the lick you just heard, I just want to make sure that you know that you can get the tabs in Guitar Pro format and PDF by clicking the link below in the description. Alright, so this lick is in D minor and it's mainly pentatonic, but we're also going to add one extra note, and that note is the second or the ninth. So we're going to actually start on that note. Here the E note, D is the root, E is the second. And then we're gonna ascend up this arpeggio. Basically this is an F major arpeggio, starting on the 7th. And why I mention that is because when you learn things like this, and especially when it's stuff that you like the sound of, you should try to understand how it works structurally. And what I mean by that is, it's not important that it's an F major arpeggio necessarily, it's more that it's the major 7 arpeggio built from the flat 3 of a minor scale. Because if you know that, and then you change key to A minor, for example, you just need to find the third note, 1, 2, 3, C, then you can play the same thing. And obviously on guitar we can use patterns more than keyboard players, saxophone player could do, but even still it's good to know what you're doing for sure. And also the more you put names on sounds, the more you're going to remember them, and eventually you're just going to be able to learn things simply by listening, because you can name it as easily as you can name your favorite song when it pops up on your playlist. So with that said, starting here on the 12th fret, just going to go up like this. So that's 12, 13, 12, 15. And then we move up one octave. So we're going to start on this E instead. And we'll repeat that shape. Move up another octave. And remember to compensate for the B string, meaning you need to move up an extra half step. So. And after that, we're going to go down to 13th fret of the B string, and we're gonna play 13, 15, 13, 17, and this is the notes from the D minor 7 arpeggio. So we have the flat 7, root, flat 3, 5. So, and from here we're just gonna go back to pretty much the position we started in, but even a bit lower, and it's just a day 1 minor pentatonic position. But we're going to do it in a different way. We're actually going to keep this ascending pattern and start that from each string. So we're going to go starting on the B string, G string, D string, A string, and then finally the low E string, and then end on the root. So if we put these together, so that's basically it. And the way that I play this is with strict alternate picking, starting with a downstroke. If you're more comfortable with starting with an upstroke, you might need to seek help, but otherwise, just start on an upstroke, so it's fine. But it's also a good idea to actually practice it starting with an upstroke, just because you can't really choose, especially when you're improvising, what pick stroke you're going to start on. So it's always good to be able to do it at least fairly well with whatever the opposite pick stroke would be for you. So work on that, because that will also strengthen the other version, believe it or not. So once you've done this and you want some extra practice, and especially if you like the sound of that kind of thing, it's a very good idea to go through the entire, or the remaining 4 minor pentatonic positions to start with. So you have this one already. Then you want to play the next one. So what you do, just if you don't know these patterns, you really should, and you can just Google pentatonic boxes and you'll find them anywhere online. So do that, because these are mandatory to know. So the next position will be this one. You're just going to go through this one, and then it's going to be up to you to cover the other ones. So And I try to keep the fingering to one finger per fret as much as possible. Some of the positions that won't work as well, but most of them actually that works. And then basically do the same thing. So I'm just starting. Then if you find a particular pattern being really tricky, and also if you want to learn this pattern if you don't already know them, it's a really good idea to just take this pattern, let's say the second pattern, and you can't play that one, and just move it down as far as you can on the fretboard, so down here. So effectively changing key here, now we're in E flat. So, and then do the same thing. Then go up to the next fret. And move it up the fretboard like that. And again, if you want to incorporate starting on an upstroke, you can start on a downstroke all the way up the fretboard. And then when you go back down, start on an upstroke, and you get, you can practice both in the same sitting. So that's a really good way to organize your practice when you have something that you feel is a bit tricky. And in this case, you're actually combining fretboard knowledge since you're learning a new shape, and also the technique practice. So that's really good, even though I also think it's a good idea to do this systematically, so you don't end up skipping using awkward finger pairs. Like, a lot of people have big trouble with 3-4, for example. And the reason for that is because they don't practice using 3-4. So don't be one of those people. If you want to do this one more systematically, I would suggest you go through it with 1-2, 1-3, 1-4, 2-3, 2-4, 3-4. So that will sound like this. Won't sound good, but it's really effective for your overall left hand control. Then do this 1-3, 1-4, 2-3. And when you practice these, I highly suggest that you do it way slower than this. So personally, I usually do it around 8 notes, around 80 BPMs, just so I can focus on the transition time. So. And the last one, 3-4. And then this one, if you start down here and do all 6 combinations, up, 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 and all the way up, and then go back again 1 fret at a time, all 6 combinations, start with an upstroke, you really got a good picking workout. Also, one thing that I want to mention is it's always a good idea to turn this around. And I'm not talking about this one specifically necessarily, but anything that's very much oriented in one direction. So you have all ascending force here. So it's a good idea to turn it around because that can open up for new licks, but also just making sure that you not get one-sided in your technique practice. So in this case, if we turn this one around, you would start on the A string. So basically, you go up the scale while the pattern goes down. So, and that's also a pretty cool sound. So same thing goes here, apply all the same practice principles. If you want to do it diatonically, you can do that. If you want to do it more systematically, you can do that. Ideally, you do both, but you don't necessarily need to do that on the same day. So hopefully everything is clear. If you have any questions, just post them below. Otherwise, have a great day and see you in the next video.